What's going on, YouTube fam? It's your boy Tony 2 times, and we back with another episode of Hood Tales, man. Before I start, be sure to tap that like button. It's free. It helps get the video out there. Definitely watch this video to the end so you can hear the full story and all the details in the case. Stay tuned. I got a story time for y'all that you definitely gonna want to hear. For my day one fam, y'all already know it's all love. Thanks for tuning back into another episode. If you're new to the channel and you feeling the content, feel free to subscribe. Definitely hit that notification bell so you can be notified every time we drop a new video. Oh yeah, feel free to share the channel with your peoples. Everybody is welcome. With that being said, let's get right into the story. Being a young man, late teens, early 20s, is supposed to be one of the best times in a man's life. Young, a lot of energy, fresh out of high school, bright-eyed, with the world at your feet. Of course, with that comes having fun. And nothing is more fun at that age than having you one or a few female friends to rotate with. That's when it's cool to date, not get too serious, because you are just saying what's out there. And it makes dating even more fun if you have some motion, a job, a little car. With that, you can't lose with the young ladies. But unfortunately, even through all the fun, it can be drama or competition from other young men. Whether y'all like the same girl, run in different crowds who don't like each other, it doesn't take much for young men to poke their chests out and say, I don't like yo, full of ego and foolish pride. It's hard for some to understand the pros and cons of life. Meaning if you got a job and some money in your pocket, it shouldn't matter what the next man has. Or if a girl you are feeling chooses another guy over you, it's all a part of the game and growing pains. But it takes time to learn how to control your emotions and feelings. And sadly enough, for some, before they get to their full potential, they either crash out or lose their life over something that really wasn't worth it. And on this episode of Hood Tales, we'll be taking it to Chattanooga, Tennessee to discuss the case of a man who crashed out on a job and took his co-worker's life over a girl. Back in the summer of 2023, 19-year-old Javante Moon was a young man navigating life in Tennessee. Described as strong, caring, a respectable guy who was trying to stay out the way and lock in on his future. Fresh out of high school where he played football and also loved basketball as well. At the time, sports was his life, but now getting older and learning to be more responsible for himself, Javante understood he had to go out to work, and he landed a decent job as a packer and sorter at an Amazon warehouse in Chattanooga. Everything was going smooth, and of course, young, in shape, making some money, it wasn't hard to gain the attention of female co-workers. If you know or have heard anything about Amazon, then you know it's a lot of mixing and mingling going on. And another young man also trying to work and get on his feet was 20-year-old Deontay Jones. Deontay and Javante at first were just co-workers, so they said what's up and kept it pushing until they both found themselves attracted to and vibing with the same young lady who also worked there, who we will call Shay for the sake of the story. Shay would kick it with Javante while at work, or sometimes vibe with Deontay. At first, all being young, it didn't seem that serious, just young men and a young woman figuring out who and what they liked doing them. But according to sources, somewhere in the mix, Deontay started getting jealous and catching feelings for Shay. He approached Javante one day like, bro, fall back, leave shorty alone, that's me. Confused, Javante kept it player, like, bro, why you checking me? I'm just having fun. If she going for it, it is what it is. The verbal back and forth went on for a few weeks and tension was rising. Deontay will often tell other co-workers, bro better stop playing with me before I show him what's really up with me. And as he heard what Deontay was saying and saw him in passing, Javante would just brush him off. But on a summer night in August 2023, Deontay, still feeling like Javante still wasn't getting the picture, approached him again, telling him to leave Shay alone. The young man had the same response and told him, bro, get out my face, you gotta check her. He also stated, she not even your girl. Frustrated and feeling played, Deontay caught a Lyft ride home and came back to the job. in the early morning hours before shift changed. He sat and talked to another co-worker and waited. As Javante and others left for the morning, Deontay approached. Seconds later, a shot went off, and everybody ran for cover. Security called local police, who responded to the scene to find Javante suffering from a single gunshot wound to the face. He was rushed to a local hospital in critical condition. Witnesses told police exactly what happened, an argument over a girl and who the shooter was, Deontay. But the young man was in the wind. Not long after the incident, the Lyft driver who picked him up from the job and took him back up there came forward after the story hit the news. He stated he picked the young man up. At first, he was talkative, telling him his co-worker threatened his life over a girl. He told him to leave her alone and told the driver, "I got something for that though." The driver stated after he pulled up to Deontay's house and the young man got back in the Lyft to go back to the job, his energy was different. This time, it seemed like he was on a mission, and he noticed him holding something he felt was a gun. He stated, thinking he was just venting, he dropped the young man back off before seeing his picture on the news. Police also had footage from the warehouse that caught the whole incident. Deontay waiting in the parking lot, Javante walking out before he approached, shot, then after he flexed, making a muscle, laughing, as it seemed he was celebrating. With his face everywhere, it wouldn't take long for Deontay to be picked up, taken into custody, at first charged with attempted hit and weapon violations. As he admitted, he wanted Javante to leave a girl alone, and after an argument, he went home and came back with a gun. But while in custody, after fighting for his life, unfortunately, on August 10th, 2023, Javante would pass away from his injuries. As Deontay was brought back in front of a judge and heard his charges was upgraded to first-degree hit, he showed no emotion. Javantay's family was left to grieve, as they had to cope with the fact he lost his life at work over a young lady who wasn't either one of their girlfriends. As the case made its way to court, the evidence against the young man was overwhelming. Prosecutors showed video of Deontay sitting, waiting before approaching Javante and shooting. Witnesses testified, including the Lyft driver who picked him up from the warehouse and took him back, about the conversation they had in the car. Shay even surprisingly took the stand as a witness and explained she was only friends with both men. As prosecutors felt it was premeditated, Deontay would surprisingly get a break. He was found guilty on a lesser charge of second-degree hit, and at 22 years old, he was sentenced to 23 years in prison. Rest in peace to Javante. I send my prayers and condolences to his family. I always say this, but I guess to some, it's about their pride and ego. But for any man, old or young, if you crash out, go to prison over a woman, she still is going to be out here doing her. So whatever you was trying to prevent will happen anyway. The only difference will be you will be sitting in a cell. I was just talking about these kind of situations and how dudes are crashing out all over the world over women when there's so many out here. Quick story time. I remember my first heartbreak. I was like 14 years old before I went back home to Baltimore. I was living in Alabama, West Highland, going to Harrytown High School. My girl at the time, who I will call Maya, I thought at the time I was head over heels for. My first love. We used to do all the kid stuff, talk on the phone for hours, talk about how it will be when we grow up. I even got caught at her house by her father doing something no man want to catch his daughter doing. Through all that, we stayed together. We was locked in. I had a homie from New York who was older than us by like 2 years. We went to the same school as well. I will call him Ray Ray. Bro was popular. All the girls liked him. He had a car. He used to take me home almost every day. He even took me to Maya's house sometimes. Long story short, I took some money I had saved up for a minute. Went all out for shorty for Valentine's Day. I rode my bike hours away, me and my other homeboy. I bought her a basket that was like $100. And this was back in the day, like 99, early 2000. So it had all kinds of stuff in it. I took it to school. All the other girls was looking, jealous, thinking to myself I was doing something. I gave it to who I thought was my girl, just for her to break down, start crying, and tell me she didn't deserve it. I was confused, but she told me because she was smashing Ray Ray behind my back. He was dropping me off at home and going to her house right after. My soul left my body. But as hurt as I was, and I had guns at the time, I never once thought I gotta go shoot bro or even her. I just knew right then and there, it's a cold game. Of course, I fell back from both of them. Young and dumb, I wanted bro head, at least a fight. But I sat and talked to my father, and he told me something that stuck with me. That's life. She did that because she wanted to do that. Take that on the chin. It's not his fault. He was just being a man. It definitely changed me for years. I was cold. But I say that to say it's all a part of life. It happens to all of us. But life goes on. Time heals, and you stay alive and free. Unless, of course, you do something like this and throw your life away and take a life for nothing. Somebody who still gonna be doing them. But I want to leave this one open for discussion. Y'all let me know what y'all think about the situation. And if you have stories like mine, share them in the comments. And remember, we gotta succeed, not to fail. So we won't be just another hood tale. Yeah, man, it's a super crazy situation. Rest in peace, that young man. I'm sure all my fellas out there, we can relate to something like this. It probably ain't go this far, but going back and forth over a young lady. But y'all leave it in the comments. I appreciate you if you made it to the end. It's another episode of Hood Tales. Y'all already know it's all love, fam. It's your boy Tony 2 times. What's going on, YouTube, fam? It's your boy Tony 2 times, and we back with another episode of Hood Tales, man. Before I start, be sure to tap that like button. It's free. It helps get the video out there. Definitely watch this video to the end so you can hear the full story and all the details in the case. For my day one fam, y'all already know it's all love. Thanks for tuning back into another episode. If you're new to the channel and you feeling the content, feel free to subscribe. Definitely hit that notification bell so you can be notified every time we drop a new video. Oh yeah, feel free to share the channel with your peoples. Everybody is welcome. With that being said, let's get right into the story. In life, we all have our own journeys and paths we gotta take to get to wherever you're trying to go. Some people reach for the stars. They might want to be a movie star, a celebrity. Others might just want to be comfortable. So they go to school to be a doctor or lawyer. Either way, it's very important to find your purpose and stay on track. You never judge others for their journey because you never know what circumstances in life led them down that path. But even though you don't judge, it's also very important you stay in your own lane and don't try to swerve. For example, if you are a young man trying to be an engineer and you come from a place where all your friends are street dudes, you have to know you don't have to go down on the block to show them you still have love for them. Because as a wise person once told me, when you are trying to do right around people who are still doing wrong, either one or two things will happen. You will bring them up to your level or fall to theirs. And it's usually you will be the person to fall. We all like to think, I got this. I know who I am and what I'm doing, without realizing the temptation and manipulation out here in these streets. And some places have more of that than others, like jail or prison. Coming from a person that has been to both, you have some of the most intelligent, smart brothers with good hearts who probably just made a bad mistake in there. But you also have master manipulators, predators, and people who like to play mental gymnastics. And as a young man or woman who signs up to work in these places, you have to understand what you are getting yourself into. And on this episode of Hood Tales, we'll be taking it to Glenville, Georgia, to discuss the case of a woman's relationship with an inmate that came to a fatal end inside the prison she worked at. Back in the summer of 2024, 24-year-old Ariane Grace was a young woman just trying to navigate life and do her best. The Georgia girl who had graduated from Statesboro High School years prior had big dreams of being a nurse one day. The mother of two, Ariane's main focus was raising her kids, working hard to give them a good life, and what she did. Described as outgoing, strong, the type of woman who wanted to help people, saw the good in everybody, and loved hard. Ariane enrolled in nursing school, and for her dreams to come true, she also understood she needed some good income in the meantime to provide for her and her kids. So months prior in January, she started a job. It was a food service company who usually outsourced to different facilities like hospitals and prisons. The young lady would find herself in a total different world than what she was used to. working in the kitchen at the dangerous and notorious Smith State Prison in Glenville, Georgia. Known to house some of the most dangerous inmates in the state, the prison definitely had its problems. From being short on staff, so it seemed the inmates had more control than the guards. Contraband issues with stuff getting in and a lot of gang activity. But to Ariane, it was just a job, a means to an end, a way to pay for school and to take care of her kids. Until she met a man, but not one of the guards, an inmate. He was at the time 34-year-old Jay Dreekes Hart, also a Georgia boy from Carrollton. Jay Dreekes had caught a manslaughter charge back in 2013, and in 2015, he was found guilty, sentenced to 20 years in prison, and he was serving his time at Smith. The two would see each other in the child hall, and Jay Dreekes, with nothing but time on his hands, came up with different ways to get Ariane's attention, and eventually it paid off, and the two started a secret relationship. Of course, they had to keep it super low, but with so much other things going on inside the prison, it was easy. But the young lady, infatuated with an inmate, didn't know what she was getting herself into. As months went by, their relationship grew, and by the summer of 2024, they were locked in. On June 16th, Ariane headed to work as normal. They had to be there super early. Around about 4:30 a.m., to everyone's surprise, gunshots broke the silence of the morning. The shots were coming from the cafeteria where Ariane worked at, and prison guards called local police, making a devastating claim. They stated an inmate had a gun and had shot a woman in the kitchen, then himself. When police arrived to the scene, they found Ariane and Jay Dreekes both suffering from gunshot wounds, and unfortunately, both were pronounced gone on the scene. It was chaotic as guards were in shock. An inmate had a gun in the prison, and all was wondering why he targeted the young lady. But Jay Dreekes had allegedly wrote a letter explaining their relationship. As the prison went on lockdown to try to make sense of the mess and the questions they knew that was coming from the outside, they never notified Ariane's family. Instead, inmates who knew the situation went on social media from cell phones, found her page, reached out to her mother, and told her the devastating news. She was heartbroken, but through her pain, local police seemed more interested in searching Ariane's home, in which whatever they was looking for, they left in a mess and never found. Her mother spoke out to the news about how the prison and local law enforcement never notified her about the situation. And instead of trying to find out how a gun got into the prison, they was more worried about the relationship her daughter had. She claimed they was deflecting and that the prison failed to protect her. The story, of course, went viral, with people having mixed emotions, and whatever was in Jay Dreekes' letter was never revealed to the public. Nobody knew why he did what he did. The aftermath of the situation was Ariane's mother was left to raise her 1-year-old son and 4-year-old daughter because they lost their mother. She later filed a lawsuit against the prison, but until this day, it's more questions than answers in this case. Either way, rest in peace to Ariane. I send my prayers and condolences to her family, her mother, and especially her kids. I know some will think, young, pretty, good job, why waste your time on an inmate? But me being incarcerated before, I know the mindset of an inmate. Yes, you are in a bad situation, but most mentally are the strongest they have ever been, and physically in shape. What some will call a jail glow. If you are not smoking and drinking all the things in the streets to keep you preserved, your gift of gab is on point because you have nothing but time. And a woman who steps foot in any prison, if she is looking for love, or at any point if she is vulnerable, doesn't stand a chance. Quick story. I had a homeboy who I was locked up with. I won't say what jail, but it was one of the jails on Greenmount in my hometown of Baltimore. We will call him Jay. It was a CO who we will call Tiff. Tiff and Jay built a relationship to the point that was really his girl. They was really locked in. Bro would have crashed out over her. He was in love. He was working his moves from the jail and even bought her a car. I say this to say some inmates in some woman's eyes, crazy enough, might seem to have more potential and more to offer than men in the streets. But I want to know y'all thoughts on this situation. Leave it in the comments. And remember, we got to succeed, not to fail, so we won't be just another hood tale. Yeah, man, this is a super crazy story. Rest in peace, that young lady. I definitely send my prayers to her family. But I ain't gonna talk too much more about this one. Y'all leave it in the comments. I appreciate you if you made it to the end. Y'all already know it's all love, fam. It's another episode of Hood Tales. It's your boy Tony 2 times. Out.
Was shot and killed after becoming upset because a woman she held the door open for didn't say thank you.
Simpson's family tells us she was a lovely lady, a pharmacy technician. Her life closed shut over a phrase never spoken and a moment no one can take back.
It's your girl, Mrs. Tony 2 times, and I'm back with another episode of Hood Tales. In this video, let's take it to Dallas, Texas, to discuss the story of how a simple gesture as holding the door open turned into a fatal altercation. But before we get into this video, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Turn your notifications on so you don't miss any future uploads. Also, this video is sponsored by me, Mrs. Tony 2 times, and my YouTube channel. Make sure you check it out. Look out for the link to it in the comments. Stay tuned until the end to hear the full story. Everything in this video is alleged. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. In the busy shopping plazas of Dallas, Texas, where people come and go without thinking twice about their day, one simple act of courtesy would spiral into an unthinkable confrontation. It was supposed to be an ordinary afternoon for 41-year-old Cecilia Simpson and her daughter, a quick shopping trip, nothing more. But what began as a small gesture of kindness, holding a door open, would set off a chain of events that changed two lives forever. Cecilia was a mother, a provider, and a woman known for her strength and strong sense of respect. Friends and family described her as protective and outspoken, the type of person who didn't bite their tongue when something felt wrong. On Tuesday, October 7th, she and her 20-year-old daughter were out shopping together in Dallas's South Oak Cliff neighborhood, running errands, laughing, and enjoying a regular Tuesday afternoon. They stopped by Five Below, a popular discount store located in a shopping plaza alongside PetSmart on West Wheatland Road off Interstate 20. But what was meant to be a lighthearted outing would soon turn tense over a moment so small it's almost hard to believe. As Cecilia and her daughter made their way out of the store, they crossed paths with a young woman later identified as 22-year-old Kiana Zakoya Hampton. According to police reports and witness statements, Cecilia held the door open for Kiana as a polite gesture. But when Kiana walked through without saying thank you, Cecilia reportedly took offense and scolded Kiana for not saying thank you. It was a brief exchange, but emotions ran high. Words were exchanged. The tone escalated. What started as a moment of perceived disrespect became a heated argument between two strangers who simply refused to back down. Cecilia and her daughter eventually decided to leave the situation behind. They walked to their car and drove a short distance across the plaza to the nearby PetSmart, hoping to move on with their day. But Kiana Hampton wasn't done. According to the arrest affidavit, Kiana began walking in the same direction as Cecilia's car, toward PetSmart. Inside the store, Cecilia reportedly told employees that a woman was following her and her daughter. Moments later, Kiana entered PetSmart and immediately reignited the argument, this time directing her words toward Cecilia's daughter. Store employees intervened, trying to de-escalate the situation, and Kiana eventually left the store. But just minutes later, she came back. Once again, the tension flared between Cecilia and Kiana, Voices were raised. Tempers grew hotter. Employees asked both women to leave the store. Outside in the parking lot, surveillance video would later show the situation completely unraveling. Cecilia and her daughter began getting into their car, trying once again to put distance between themselves and the confrontation. But Kiana, now visibly agitated, allegedly threw a drink bottle at their vehicle. That was the final straw. Cecilia stepped out of the car to confront Kiana face to face. Witnesses said the argument quickly turned physical. The two women began fighting, yelling, shoving, and swinging as onlookers started to gather. Cecilia landed a few good punches on Kiana. According to police documents, Cecilia's daughter stepped away from the fight momentarily. That's when Kiana allegedly reached for a black and silver weapon. 3 shots rang out. Cecilia fell to the ground as her daughter screamed for help. A 27-year-old ER nurse who happened to be leaving PetSmart that day heard the commotion and ran toward the sound of shots fired. She saw the 2 women on the ground, one walking away, the other motionless. She immediately began performing CPR, doing everything in her power to save Cecilia as the distraught daughter clung to her mother's side, crying out her name. Despite her efforts, Cecilia could not be revived. She was transported to Methodist Central Hospital, where doctors confirmed the tragic outcome. Meanwhile, Kiana fled the scene in a black Ford 500. Dallas police quickly launched an investigation, reviewing surveillance footage that captured the moments after the shooting. They traced the black Ford 500 to its registered address and began surveillance at a nearby apartment complex. Within hours, officers spotted Kiana standing on a balcony, still wearing the same clothes seen in the footage. Later that evening, around 7:45 p.m., officers conducted a traffic stop on her vehicle. Kiana was taken into custody and brought to Dallas Police Headquarters for questioning. During her interview, Kiana waived her rights and admitted to arguing with Cecilia and her daughter, following them into PetSmart twice, and throwing a bottle at their car. She also admitted to firing the weapon, but insisted she only did it because she was trying to get Cecilia away from her. Authorities weren't convinced. She was booked into the Dallas County Jail, charged in connection with the fatal shooting, with bond still pending. Kiana Hampton is innocent until proven guilty. This tragedy is one that leaves people stunned, not just because of what happened, but why it happened. A simple misunderstanding, a moment of pride, emotion, and anger spiraled into irreversible actions. 2 strangers whose paths crossed for mere seconds now represent a painful lesson about impulse, pride, and the dangers of carrying weapons into everyday disputes. May Cecilia Simpson rest in peace. My condolences to her family. Cecilia lost her life standing up for what she believed was basic respect. And Kiana Hampton, just 22 years old, now faces the weight of a decision made in seconds, one that will follow her for the rest of her life. Both families are forever changed. When did simple disagreements start ending with shots fired? Sometimes all it takes is one moment, one choice to change everything. And in this case, a small act of courtesy became the spark that ended in tragedy. May this story serve as a reminder: not every slight deserves a reaction, not every argument deserves escalation, and not every battle needs to be fought. Fam, I'm going to leave the rest up to you. What are your thoughts on this tragic situation? Let me know in the comments below. All right, fam, that's it for this episode of Hood Tales. Thank you so much for watching. If this story moved you, consider liking and sharing. Subscribe for more stories like this and for the stories behind the headlines, because behind them all are lives forever changed. This is your girl, Mrs. Tony Two Times. Until next time.
What's going on, YouTube fam? It's your boy Tony Two Times, and we back with another episode of Hood Tales, man. Before I start, be sure to tap that like button. Definitely watch this video to the end to hear the full story and all the details in the case. There's a lot of twists and turns in this one, so y'all keep up with me. For my day one fam, y'all already know it's all love. Thanks for tuning back into another episode. If you're new to the channel and you feeling the content, feel free to subscribe. Definitely hit that notification bell so you can be notified every time we drop a new video. Oh yeah, feel free to share the channel with your peoples. Everybody is welcome. With that being said, let's get right into the story. In life, we all face obstacles and hurdles we have to overcome. Whether dealing with depression, addiction, struggling just to find work, we all go through things and have seasons in life. But it's not about what we go through. It's about how you handle it and shape back. Because like the old folks used to say, struggle builds character. In the world we live in now, you can actually go through something, and once you make it through and make it to the other side, you can get in front of a camera and share your story on social media. If you don't mind being that transparent, and you will find out it's millions of others probably going through the same thing. And for some people, just simply sharing their story gets them notoriety and also a taste of fame. It takes a strong person to come from the bottom, get an opportunity to make some big money, be famous, and stay humble and grounded. While success looks good on some people, for others, they crave or want to be known so bad, they become obsessed with not just being successful, but famous. A lot of people look up to others, whether celebrities or influencers, and I think we forget they are regular people with regular problems and personalities. Behind the scenes, some people become so caught up in their public persona and the clout or fame that they will do anything so their 15 minutes of fame will go further. And on this episode of Hood Tales, we'll be taking it to Phoenix, Arizona to discuss the case of a celebrity chef who snapped after his wife stopped funding his lifestyle. All the way back in 2017, 45-year-old Anthony Milan Ross seemed to be on top of the world. An Arizona chef who got his claim to fame for being a vegan chef who had hundreds of recipes, just promoting a healthy lifestyle. Outside of work, Anthony was a family man. He had a wife at the time, 38-year-old Iris Ross, and 2 kids, 11-year-old Nigel and a 10-month-old baby girl named Honora. But life wasn't always smooth for Anthony. Let's take it back some years. He was a bigger guy who struggled with weight and eating habits, weighing over 500 pounds. He was depressed and in a low point in his life. His wife always supported him and tried her best to tell him he could lose the weight. But at the time, Anthony didn't know how. He would struggle just to play catch with his son and do regular family activities. His breaking point came when they went to a family trip to an amusement park. His son wanted to ride a ride and Anthony was too big to get on it. That crushed his spirit, that his weight affected his son having a good time. He immediately after that started a program that was geared toward healthier living and eating habits, all surrounded by a plant-based or vegan lifestyle, and also going to the gym. Anthony went all in, learning how to make vegan meals and hitting the gym on a regular basis. And his dedication paid off. Over a few years, his weight started falling, and he would be down almost 250 pounds. While learning how to cook vegan, he fell in love with it and became a vegan chef. He shared this story on social media and his local news station in his town, and it went viral. People couldn't believe the man had lost all that weight without diet pills or surgery, all from changing the way he was eating and going to the gym. Now called Chef Milan, his middle name, Anthony wrote 2 books that ended up being bestsellers. He was now in the spotlight, traveling all over the world, talking about his weight loss journey, going on talk shows, speaking and cooking, and now he was rubbing shoulders with celebrities. It seemed like he was a whole new man. He even took his son back to that same amusement park and got on a ride they couldn't get on 4 years later. His new lifestyle was motivation to everyone, and the chef was a real-life walking success story. His wife Iris stayed in the background and raised the kids. Now a new mother again to her 10-month-old, she was described as very loving and supportive. But with all the success her husband was said to have, she definitely wasn't a slouch herself. Iris had a great career at St. Joseph's Hospital and Medical Center as the director of healthcare administrator for the outpatient surgery center, in which she made good money. It seemed the family had achieved the American dream. But behind all of Anthony's TV appearances, books, social media fame, surprisingly, she and him both realized clout doesn't equal money. You still have to make moves to keep the money and fame going. By 2017, Anthony was at a standstill. While having a great story and strong passion for vegan food, we all know how fast people move on to the next topic or viral sensation. He wasn't getting booked as much, and the speaking engagements slowed down. In fact, Iris was spending her own money to promote, also buy out venues for the chef to speak at, which became taxing on the family's finances. It seemed instead of just cooking, maybe opening up a small vegan restaurant, Chef Anthony had become obsessed with the limelight and the fame. As the family's finances took a hit, while Anthony chased his dreams, Iris had reached a breaking point, telling him he needed to find another way to make a living to help support the family. But Anthony was gung-ho on pushing his brand. So Iris, tired of it, filed for a divorce. Anthony took it hard because she was the money pushing him behind the scenes. The couple had many talks, and Anthony begged her to try to make the marriage work, accusing her of not believing in his dreams. But she was done living a lie. They were co-parenting, and on Christmas Eve in 2017, Anthony pleaded with his estranged wife to come spend some time with him and bring the kids for the holidays. She agreed and brought the kids over. She talked to Anthony for a few hours, but as he started talking about the marriage and brand, she politely told him she was leaving. Go ahead and spend time with the kids, and she would be back to get them. As Anthony was doing his father duties, taking care of his baby girl, even going on Facebook, singing Christmas songs with his son.
You better not cry.
You better not pout.
I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming to town.
It seemed he was in a good headspace, but just hours later, things would take a dark turn. On Christmas Day, Iris headed over to pick the kids up. Anthony met her at the front door. Then, right outside, broad daylight on Christmas, as she proceeded to walk into the house, Anthony shot her. A neighbor who heard the commotion came outside and asked is she okay, but he upped the gun on them before going back into the house. They called local police, who responded to the scene to find out, unfortunately, Iris had passed away from her injuries. They were horrified to find out Anthony was still armed inside the house with the kids, and that the man was making threats. Police quickly realized they had a hostage situation on their hand. They made contact with Anthony. During the standoff, he told them he would end his kid's life. It's not clear if he made demands or not, but a few hours later, gunshots erupted from the home. And he texted family members, "I did it. I took the kids out. They are gone." As the information was delivered to police, they pleaded with Anthony to come out so nobody else would get hurt. But he told them he was going to take himself out now. A few hours later though, he must have had a change of heart. Anthony started shooting at police. They returned fire, and after a 6-hour standoff, surprisingly, he was arrested without any incident. While in cuffs, police entered the home to find out, unfortunately, Anthony's text messages were all true. They found their son and daughter gone from gunshot wounds. He was taken into custody, charged with 3 counts of first-degree hit and other charges as well. At his first court date, Anthony didn't show much emotion. He just sat and listened to the judge. Iris' family and the community were in shock. People that knew her and Anthony couldn't believe he snapped like that. But family members that knew what was going on behind the scenes and all about the divorce knew it was all about money and him wanting her to support his dream of being famous. And when Anthony realized she was standing on her decision, he wanted to get revenge on her and his kids. As the case made its way to trial, it wasn't much his attorney could say, other than the fact Anthony struggled with mental health issues. But as the details of the incident were read out in the courtroom and the jury heard everything, it was nothing his lawyer could do. Anthony was found guilty on all charges, and he faces the ultimate punishment as he could be sentenced to death. He is scheduled to find out his fate next month, January 2026. Rest in peace to Iris, Nigel, and baby Honora. I send my prayers and condolences to their family and everybody affected by this situation. Any man that can sit, watch his kids sing songs with his son, knowing what he was about to do, is a different kind of evil. It's bad enough he took their mother's life, but the kids had nothing to do with it. Crazy enough, in stories like this, when someone doesn't leave the kids, it's because their logic is, I'd rather them gone too instead of in foster care. Anthony could have had it all if he put the grind behind the image, rub shoulders with the right people, make a business plan, but he was stuck on the fame and the image, not the money and taking care of his family. Then you get mad at your wife that she didn't want to spend her money chasing a dream that wasn't guaranteed when y'all had a baby and a son to take care of, and you plotted revenge, took the sucker way out and did that to your kids, but couldn't do it to yourself. That says a lot about his character. Anthony snapped over an image, but I guess for some, that's the price of fame. But I'm going to leave this one open for discussion. Y'all let me know y'all thoughts on the situation in the comments. And remember, we got to succeed, not to fail, so we won't be just another hood tale. Yeah, man, this is a super messed up story. Rest in peace to Iris, Nigel, and also baby girl Honora. I definitely send my prayers to their family. But I ain't going to talk too much more about this one. Y'all leave it in the comments. I appreciate you if you made it to the end. Be sure to tap that like button if you're feeling the content. Y'all already know it's all love, fam. This is another episode of Hood Tales. It's your boy Tony 2 times. I'm out.